All right, so the meeting of the Parkview Health Center Board Committee order at 3:30. Our first agenda item is approval of the minutes. I'm sorry, did we get minutes?
The minutes get posted. Cassie is supposed to send it to you guys, I believe.
Okay.
It also gets posted, but I can print it out for you guys.
We did that. We did this. You get them? I got minutes. I actually just gave them to you.
I'm sorry.
They were in my packet. Yeah, we did.
Oh,
All right, so,
I have a-
okay,
I have a-
yeah, go ahead.
The motion that was brought forward to pass the minutes of the previous meeting in April 5th. I was the one that abstained. 4-0-1. Okay. It should be noted that I abstained.
We need a motion to approve. You. Yeah, motion second to approve the minutes.
yes.
I'll make the motion to approve. Ordinance second by Supervisor Paschal. One edit from Supervisor Cox. Any other items from anyone? Okay, then all in favor of approving the minutes from May 9th, 2021, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried five. Item 3, public forum. The opportunity for anyone in the public to address this committee, and nobody here in the room, so we'll go to Zoom. Anybody on Zoom like to address the committee?
Yeah, I guess I'll say a few words, Kobe. I really wasn't. I was just going to kind of watch.
Yeah.
I mean, with this whole staff shortage or whatever, I understand the things you're going to, but I think a lot of the suggestions that Kira has brought forward are definitely good suggestions. I know we're not very keen on the sign-on bonuses, but sometimes they work. And the thing is, you don't have to do sign-on bonuses all at once. I think Aurora was giving $5,000 sign-on bonuses, but they were spreading it out over 18 to even 24 months. I mean, you got it in steps. You didn't get all $5,000 right away because they did that for retention reasons, that they don't want somebody to get a bonus and then leave right away. The other thing is I see that there was talk of converting some CNA positions into hospitality, which it's sad that we have to do that, but I understand why we do it, because we need the bodies to do it. And basically, we created the hospitality positions to alleviate a lot of the work for the CNAs because they're overworked, and we had a shortage of them. So basically, the hospitality aides can do, if the board isn't informed on what the hospitality aides do, and I think you guys should inform the board on what they are. Hospitality aides are basically duties that can be done in place of CNAs except patient care. They can do everything that the CNAs do except pretty much patient care, which is 3/4 of the other work. So by having extra hospitality aides, you have extra people on the units, which then you're able to take admissions, because then you have people that are available to care for these people. So like I say, I just wanted to say a few things. I understand the difficulty in your decision, but I think Kira and your director of nursing there are on the right track. And I think you guys need to listen to them and take some of their suggestions. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, could you give us your name and address for the record?
I'm sorry. Larry Lautenschlager, 1215 Car Place, Oshkosh.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll close the public hearing and move on to agenda item number 4. the administrator's report.
So for the training center update, we had a meeting this afternoon regarding that. Everything seems to be going as planned. The masonry work was supposed to start this week and got delayed by a week regarding supply delivery, but is tentative on Monday, and they feel that they can catch up from that. So there was also discussion about some locks and also some fan and exhaust issues of supply as well. We're looking at temporary fixes for those so that we're still on track to open hopefully October, November. So working through those challenges. Any questions on the training center at all? Okay. Moving on to our COVID-19 update. Currently, we are experiencing an outbreak right now in the facility. We have had 5 residents in the last week become positive, along with 9 staff, and since the beginning of May. So that seems to be kind of a lingering outbreak at this point, which is kind of setting us a little bit behind regarding admissions and our census. Okay. Any questions about the COVID-19 status?
Are you doing testing?
We are required to test staff twice weekly, along with residents that have had any exposure or positive neighborhoods. So they're also being testable.
Everybody is getting tested. Are the exposures isolated in one neighborhood, or are
They were up until today.
they were?
So the one challenge that we have with that is that we can't restrict visitors. So our visitors are coming in and we can educate them as much as we can regarding symptoms and them coming positive, but we can't restrict them. So yes, so all of our residents, once they are deemed positive, they move to our COVID positive unit, so they are quarantined away from the other residents. That is Woodside too.
Would that have been one of the neighborhoods that's not being used?
Yes.
Okay.
Per regulation, we have to have a designated area, so that's the area we currently have.
Is it big enough to accommodate future use or area numbers?
It's a 21 beds, and then if we have to cohort, which means combine, we can.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to item number 5, Parkview Health Center differentials. Why don't we have anything you'd like to say to start, and then we'll bring it to the committee for a motion and discussion.
I do just have a little bit of introduction. So I'd like to start by thanking everyone that's been in support of Parkview, especially over the course of the last 2 years. It means a lot to staff knowing that the community supports and encourages the day-to-day hard work and care that is provided to the aging members of our community. Parkview has encountered immense changes over the course of the last 2 years and through the pandemic, and is currently experiencing a post-pandemic crisis. Nursing home regulations have not changed in regards to outbreak status, quarantine, and admissions. We are still experiencing facility outbreaks, which inhibits us from accepting new residents and having to keep staff off on quarantine for long durations of time. Along with the increased scrutiny and regulations from CMS, we are also experiencing a national healthcare shortage of workers. This has made it increasingly difficult to provide the necessary care and services required to meet the needs of the residents that require 24-hour care. It is of utmost importance at this time that we address the immediate crisis and concern at Parkview that we are facing daily. We understand a county-wide wage proposal will be taking place in the fall. However, Parkview requires action now to help alleviate some of this burden. The purpose of the 4 proposals is to help maintain quality of care that the residents require and deserve, remain up to date and competitive in the ever-changing healthcare industry to try to attract new applicants, and to acknowledge the current staff taking on the burden of fulfilling all of the open additional hours to prevent further burnout and further resignations. We want to thank everyone for their consideration regarding our crisis proposals.
Yes, would you like to make a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to move Parkview Health Center differences.
Council Norton, all right, any discussion?
Differential.
Yeah.
It's right, it's actually in the back of the packet. What is NLC stand for?
NAC is on night shift. No.
I guess what I'd like is to take a look at the differences in what you have done. Very deep. Weekend PM and your on LPNs and certified. When I take a look at those, and as well as the RN, so they're doing $2 to $3, and one case a $4 increase on an hourly wage. As I was discussing earlier, there has to be a certain balance between giving a wage increase and expecting a certain amount of education to go with it. Something that would increase the value of the laborer rather than paying the laborer so much that they work themselves out of the balance between capital and labor. Capital being the equipment or the people that they're taking care of, or number of beds of use, that sort of thing. That would be the capital side. The labor has to be balanced with a good deal of education, whether it's one course, 2 courses, a 3-credit course, a certification or something that they're getting involved with that keeps their certification good and keeps them available to you. And you don't have to give away the farm to get that. See what I'm saying? So when I take a look at that, and I take a look at how that matches up with it's relatively deep. On their part, on Washington's part, I don't know that they're taking care of the education side or anything else, but I see it, and I mark it up this way. All the pluses. The plus side is their increases that are balanced over years. The negative are their increases, but they're less than yours. Follow me? So that's where I matched across from how you are taking the current level and how you're expanding the current level. And then how the current expansion is matching the largest other hospital. Okay, or health center. Okay. And by doing that, I get the idea that, you know, we're going in a little deep in some cases, and in some cases, we're not going deep enough. Makes it over here because they're really heavier than
And that's where we kind of did look at comparison with all the county homes, and the yellow, essentially in their colored copies, were still the values that were higher than what we're proposing for the other counties. The numbers that we came up and based off of for our differentials on where we should start is to put us at least in range of the other facilities. Knowing that we do have the wage proposal coming, we don't want to set ourselves up because if they alter the wages to a higher ratio, we don't want to set ourselves up because the differentials won't change if those wages increase. So if the wages increase, we don't want to put the differentials too high, if that makes any sense. So we wanted to find a middle ground that's going to help the crisis here, but yet not take us too far.
I'll give you my take on this. I'm not gonna recommend it. You've done a lot of work here. I don't like comparisons with other counties, but I get where you're coming from, so I do appreciate that. But this is Winnebago County, so we have a crisis. So I'm real sorry. And I appreciate all the information, but I look at some of these counties and I go, irrelevant to me. That one is irrelevant. And as far as your numbers, I've read this thing 3 times. I like your numbers. We have to do something because we're not keeping people. And the reason people are leaving space or not coming here is an opportunity that perhaps the sanction for the world that pays more. And the friend I talked about that was here, she's gone back to Ascension because they offered $8,000 for that. So I don't want her to take it. But my thought today is we have to get something, and we have to get something now. So I don't have a problem with your numbers because we can't keep people if we don't do something. As far as the education, and I don't want to badmouth education, but you have RN to come here, they have a license. As you talked about your daughter. We're trying to get the CNAs certified, and we'll be able to do, we can do that now. Last meeting you said it can happen quickly. I don't know what, I think it takes a certain kind of person to work in a nursing home, in healthcare. This is a good place to work, but I think if we go down this slippery slope of not getting something done, and I'll just talk about the differential. This looks like a lot of money per hour to a person out in the public, but since I've got a little idea of what people are making in the hospital, the only thing that bothered me is FTE. Do we have anybody in the categories of RN, LPN, certified NA that are full-time with, I would think, 40 hours? We do, okay. Because somebody that works, I don't know, if it's 30 hours, then you get that. I don't think the young people are so interested in benefits. They're interested in what's on their paycheck. I don't think you're going to change that in their mind because they're young and they go, I worry about health insurance, I worry about pension. I want dollars on my paycheck. So I'm going to vote for this differential the way you have it. I'm not concerned about education. I think it's a good point. I'll leave it at that. But I don't see anything wrong with what you did here. I think you did a good comparison.
I look at it more as a general equation for economics. And that if you give the money and start making more valuable the labor side of the balance. Then when you have to make valuable the education, buy the education, taking from the capital and buying the education in and binding it to the individual and binding that individual to your program for distance. In other words, keeping them around by handing them the opportunities and partly paying for those opportunities with regard to education, so that they can keep their certification, so they can move up the ladder in other certifications, but they feel a value to themselves, that you're treating them and you're giving them more money as well to keep them there. And if you just keep handing them money, you don't forget we're in an inflation period. That money is going to inflate to the point where everybody's going to catch up eventually. If we don't add to the program with the education side of it, it isn't all money.
I see that, but I don't want this snagged up because of that.
This one.
I don't want this snagged up because I want the education.
No.
Because I do think some of it has been going on here. So I understand, but I'm not clear on what kind of education.
Well, and that's the thing.
That's not our,
That's the thing, is almost that, look into with, some of the various like college, hospitality, or even hospitality extension. The amount of education that each one, and you probably need them define each delivers through the qualifications on it, as well as where they're going with that education, where when they come in as a housekeeping or whatever, and they're not, not certified at all, they're just taking them off the street. If they have any incentive at all to stay with the job, then you want to boost that incentive of, we can give you some education in some way, we can give you help there if you stay with us, but you have to sign on to stay with us. So it's a carrot and stick type of thing, but it works. You just have to develop it in the program along with. I know right now you need people to fill these spots, and you need to open up the doors on the hourly wage. But you have to embed the education in some way or another, at least start the process and get the thing going. Otherwise, this thing will only last so long and you'll be back where we are today.
So, I don't want to address Mr. Cox's question and concern about education. I guess my two questions that I have kind of relate to that. Is there, and I guess my question is the career path that exists within the center. So when you hire a hospitality aide, you probably are envisioning that person to potentially move up in the company. Hypothetically, this is what we do when we hire people, that we automatically start thinking, once we get them trained in their position, where are they going to fit in the career path? What are we going to be able to do for them? And I want to come back to that training center, because that training center is one of those educational paths that we are investing in, not just related to our own staff, but future staff and our the broader community of care providers that work in this world. So, for one, I guess that already exists. And so my question really is, how are you surveying your current staff about things like that? Are they saying that they want more educational opportunities? And I'm going to say, because I somewhat work in this industry, future educational opportunities that are not high on the list. From what I've gathered within my own staffing pool, having a career path and knowing how their wages are going to be maintained, having access to the benefits, are things that I hear the most about, right? And you guys would confirm. So, but with that said, there are, I guess, is the market saying from what we're hearing from staff that they want us to adjust the allocation, the educational elements of that? If there's two sides of that. We can look from the top down, from the broad perspective of saying, yeah, absolutely, we want to provide educational elements, educational growth for that. We do that, right? Everyone needs to do some level of continuing education every year, right, in order to maintain their licenses or their certifications. So that's already kind of built into that, and Parkview pays for that, correct? So that benefit's already there in order to maintain those educational concepts. And so for me, it's really important to understand what the market is saying about what we're providing our staff. So
I think when we have the staffing meetings and ask, okay, what is it that you guys are looking for right now? What can we do to help the situation? It was flexible scheduling, offer some flexible scheduling. What can we do with our schedules? The non-monetary incentives that we've added also to the package. The mandation was a big thing, but they also say, well, we want the mandation because we don't want to work short. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but saying, okay, well, maybe give us some breaks in the mandation. So let's earn that. So, okay, great, you have perfect attendance, you can earn not being mandated because you're showing up for work. So they wanted a lot of those things. Education-wise, we are, like you said, hiring the hospitality aides and offering them that CNA course to grow them into CNAs. A lot of the current CNAs that we do have are either UW Oshkosh or nursing or healthcare field-related students already anyways. I think you can probably speak to the amount of nurses that we've had transition.
I would say in the last year, we've had 5 nurses transition or are in the process of transitioning from either CNA to LPN or RN or an LPN to an RN.
now, and I guess, is that a natural, is that an organic transition? Or are we encouraging that internally, those transitions?
I mean, we always encourage internally. Some choose not
Okay.
to stay. They have a different career path in mind or a different forte, but we always encourage our own staff. We reach out to them as each semester of school is winding down, like, hey, looking for nurses on this shift, and reach out to them to see who's interested and grow them that way too.
And right now, we're not contributing. Are we contributing to their education if they're doing that? So, and I think that's what Mr. Cox, I think that's where you're headed. But at the same time, I think the market is telling us that that's not what they're really looking for. Those things that you talked about are more things that I think that they're looking for in the wage. So I'm not discounting education. So
We do offer for further education, too. Like you mentioned that the nurses have their licensures and things. We do send and educate with IV courses and phlebotomy courses, wound care certification, MBS certification. So there are numerous certifications that we offer and pay for appropriate staff to go that are interested. So, I mean, there is some forms of education and certifications that we do already.
How do you market that? Do you market that when you bring somebody in off the street to to say, well, we pay for this, and we do this, and we do this. And when you sign up for a period of time so that you can, get these certifications as we go forward. And with that, you have maybe a bonus program, but you don't give them.
Has been activated. Your assistance is needed. And Lakeside.
I'd like to make a motion for a recess.
The fire system has been activated.
All in favor of recessing? Aye.
Aye.
Respond
I can
immediately.
say.
So, I guess we're back.
All right, come back to order.
The fire system has been activated. Your assistance is needed. In Lakeside. Respond immediately.
Somebody comes in and wants to be a hospitality, they like the description.
The fire system has been activated. Your assistance is needed.
You want to buy it, you want to go feed them,
Respond
maybe,
immediately.
What do you feed them at that point?
feed them.
So the opportunity right now, this is the hospitality aid position. Being in this position, you have the opportunity also to take our CNA course that we do offer here on site. That is free of charge of you, and that we help you get through all of the exams and certifications for the CNA course.
Do you have them sign up or kind of
The fire system has been
bring
activated.
them in and, sign up, paperwork or whatever that you wanted to get into CNA or going to get into that course at such and such a date and go through it and be able to.
Are you saying like a contract almost?
Well, you don't have to make it sound like a contract, but yeah, what you really want to do is say, I'm not gonna bonus you $200 to join us now, because you have to go through that course before you are awarded the $200.
And we kind of do say, like, we can bring you in at this wage as a hospitality aid, but you do have the potential, which would be free then, to take our CNA course to earn up to this wage as a CNA.
How much of the probation?
It would just be that they have to go through that CNA course. So when we're offering that course, they'd have to complete the course along with the actual testing. Because they have an allotted amount of time after the course completion to complete their state exam.
With the education side that they're coming from, we'll say they come in from, they come in from.
The fire system has been activated.
With that education added to their list of education, can they go back to, say, Child Tech and take additional courses?
Because once they pass the state exam, they're on their registry then as a certified nursing assistant, so they can expand upon their education once completing that.
That's a plus for you.
And do you provide, like, in my industry, we have a company that we work with called Reliance. And they provide trainings that we can use to bolster, enhance the experience of our caregivers, our program assistants. And so so you must offer something like that they can work at their own pace as well. So, and then you can also build career track stuff off of that as well, based off conversations. This person wants more understanding of how to work with boundaries related to someone, something you can assign them that. You can put that into their annual evaluation, where you took this many, you educated yourself on this many different topics over the last year. I guess I'm not disagreeing with you, Morris, on this. Education is really important to tie to things. I just don't know that we have to do it in this case. And I think it might belabor any new people that might be coming in as well. I think we have built in educational components that we have to rely that administration is going to utilize those and know who their staff are that they want to build up. what if it turns out that we hire someone, we give them this contract, and it turns out we spent all that time building this educational contract with them, and they really don't work out for us. You know, and so sometimes it's okay to just do the change and then put the reliance on the administration to figure out how to best build their team around what they learn about this.
That's why I asked whether or not you have a probationary period to get past. To, you know, check the person out fully before you drop any more expense into it. That you're working with.
Everybody has a 5 month probation.
So during that time, you can put the sales pitch on them for anything that you're marketing with regard to education, as well as our wages are now coming around. We've got a wage, yes, we've got a wage study starting out eventually. We talked about the RFP that's already out there and whatever else, but I worry that you're gonna get this just on the edge of being set up, and then the wage study. Which you're to then over there and whatever else and change it around. I don't know. You put in a lot of work. I understand. I understand the need for balance between the employee or the laborer as they come on board and what you end up with after you paid, allow them to go through the pay track. After you reach a certain point, you still haven't really done anything with education. Those people will be creating. And so wherever they find the dollars. They don't share any laws unless you've got them.
They don't anymore.
Unless you've got them hooked on the market.
Even if we do tie all that stuff to it, there's no guarantee that they stay with us. So, and that's an argument to not do that, because then that provides more flexibility for administration to build their team properly around what they observe through what they do. Again, you know, I think the flexibility to not tie so much at the time of hire builds a flexible staff. So, and again,
What are your thoughts about kind of a leadership type of arrangement that allows the leadership to bring these people into different levels?
I think I'd like to just, if I could, just hold off on this. I feel like we're getting a little off of the, specifically differentials, and I don't want to cut off the I think there should be some wide latitude given the, sort of combination of things, 4 things to address one thing, as well as that, as you say, sort of the wage thing. But I just like to offer one or two thoughts, and then I'll open it back, back up, and if that's where we need to go, we can. I just want to make sure we're not, we're keeping our focus for this discussion on these differentials. And I think for me, what's clear is that differentials are part of the game. They're a big part of the game. And when I look at, your chart, I think, I agree with Beth about, there's differences if I'm living in, Richland County. Yeah. $1 less an hour in Richland County, probably puts you better off than here, So there's some differences, I see there, but what's clear is that most of these places have a substantially higher investment in these differentials. And I also want to reference then this, this list that shows the different FTE openings per shift. And regardless if we're talking about, now, the thick of it, with 40 CNA FTEs open, or if we're going back 2 years, pre-pandemic, and we only have 18 FTEs. There's a clear imbalance there, where the PM and night shifts are always needing more attention. And so those are sort of my my reasons for for supporting this. I think there's probably I'm new to this committee, so and so certainly looking at these FTE openings is a new experience. I don't have all the context, but it certainly seems like like we're behind in being able to staff that, which I would assume is also integrated with some of these other issues that we're having as well, which will be which I think we'll have some discussion on. But for me, because I see the other counties doing more to invest in those, because I see the consistent need on PM and night shifts to fill those FTEs. Those are the reasons that I'm going to support this. I agree with Supervisor Cox that when we get the wage study, we may see something up or down, like very different than what we're seeing now. I suspect you all have a pretty good handle on what people what is going to be effective for the staff you have now, and in the future. So I'm willing to go ahead with this, and with that, I will step back and whatever other comments people want to make. Okay.
Excellent.
And we will invest that a lot to take in, and like I said, I can't. It's hard for us to all the other places that take the comparison, but yeah, I think that would be done. That's correct. So I'm typically shift preparation with.
Well, let's take a look at these. The variance. Check the variance. In some cases, it's high as $4. I measured those at the bottom box. Okay, and then go and turn about 2 pages back. And you'll see Washington. Washington study, county study. And I took the proposal after what you saw on that page. I took the proposed that I measured against the Washington and the Washington County. The pluses are where they're ahead, and the minuses are where they're falling behind. It's just those variants.
Yeah, but you also notice that their starting wage is like $2 more per hour higher.
Yes. So Washington County, I believe, is people that don't know, it's right down by Milwaukee. Yeah, that's going.
And I think too, when we look at that, Washington County might have more of a deficit when it comes to night shift consistently than what Brookview does. And I think by looking at the FTE, we can consistently say that our PM shift is more of a deficit than our night shift. So I think that we need to address the PM shift versus the night shift, and that might be some of those differences you're noting.
Comment, Doug?
So I agree that there is, our CNAs for that one, or 2 of the categories are higher than what Washington County is. But
Overall,
I don't think it's a big enough issue.
it's in the ballpark of what you want to be. I think so too. Yeah. One of my concerns, though, and I mentioned it before, is getting a balance between labor and what you have invested. In other words, the number of beds, the people, and whatever. If in fact you put a greater cost into the dollar amount that you give your CNAs and your housekeeping and whatever. When you put that dollar amount in there, that increases your labor on the labor side of the teeter totter. And you've got to find some way to balance that with the costs that you have involved in equipment, the costs you have involved with the people that you're bringing in, because those are the people, that's your product as they come in.
In order for us to admit more, we have to be able to have more staff to do that. So like,
Yeah. Yeah, but then, no, we're doing two things. You're adding staff and you're adding costs at the same time. I would vote for this right now, the way you have it. I believe, but you need to find some way to knit. That's why I talked about education. But you need to find some way to knit that in as a marketing tool for the people that are coming in. And you got 90 days, you got 6 months. But you get them involved with the training and get them sold on the program so that they stick around longer.
All right, any other comments? All right, we'll go to a vote on item 5, parking health center differentials. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. All right, we'll go through the same process for number 6. Parking health center pre-shift commitment incentive. I'll turn it over for any comments from staff first, and then we'll go for a motion from the committee and the office.
when writing this proposal, we took the example from another county. We thought that this was a good idea to have. In order to encourage staff to essentially commit to shifts above and beyond what their status is already, and do that as a pre-shift commitment. So we know where our staffing levels are ahead of time.
I have a question in the agenda and the supporting materials. Where do they come from?
This is the one.
Oh, never mind. That's one.
Yeah, it should have the scheduling and incentive trials should be the last actual forms, and then the last page of that would be the last.
That would be. That's, no, that's the last one. So it's here.
Do it.
It's right here.
So that one can.
Yeah. One of the things that I wonder about is how deep are you going into a contingency fund with these various commitments?
Right. Through this year, we'll have enough cost savings in our labor that will still be within budget. So when you start getting into like contingency fund, what is the line you draw? Is it 10%, 15%? Well, that's determined by the board every year. What did you want? Well, right now, we've applied 3.2 million for 2022.
To the budget.
Well, there's a fund balance. There's no contingency. Designated fund balance is globally for the entire.
No, this is a,
No, this is a separate fund. They have their own fund balance. And of our fund balance, which is roughly 10 million, the last several years, they've applied $3 million per year of the fund balance. From our fund balance to balance of our budget. Not the general fund, just the contingency is different than the
Happy has their own fund balance.
their own fund balance.
the Parkview
It's
runs,
a standalone fund.
if Parkview runs over, right, if there's $100,000 left over, it doesn't go to the undesignated reserve fund, it goes to the Parkview, I don't know the name of it, Parkview Reserve Fund.
It's Parkview.
Okay, so that's where if Parkview then on the encumbered side, because it's hard to predict, and I understand, correct me if I'm wrong. On the other side of things where Parkview's negative $100,000, it doesn't come out of the undesignated.
It doesn't come out of the general fund.
The general fund, or it comes out of that specific equity that gets built up from the ebbs and flows.
What controls, what percentage controls how deep you go into that?
Well, there was a fund balance policy that was proposed 10, 15 years ago now. So each fund is supposed to run at a certain fund balance level. They determined ours, I think, around 4 million. When we got up to 10 million, that's when they started applying some of the fund balance in the budget to bring that down. So, and through 2020, it pretty much has stayed at around 10 million. Grew up to about 10 and stayed there for about 2 or 3 years. Last year, I'm sure we haven't had don't have the final numbers from the audit yet, but I'm sure they used a little bit there. And this year we're projecting, right now we're running at about a use of about 700,000. So we might be looking at using probably close to 2.5 million of the 3 that was projected us using. Will be less than that because of the lower census.
Bonus placements at 156.
If the census would get up to 140, then we run relatively flat. Revenues equal expenditures.
And you can see where these dollar amounts are not gonna jeopardize.
No, at least not for this year for sure. And I actually projected we'll actually save money from overtime and purchase of services because we're buying RNs and LPN services from the different temp agencies. And right now, through this point in time, we've spent about 260,000 so far just through April on temp labor. So we should be able to eliminate how much? 260,000.
When you, sorry, just when you have to purchase account, whatever the phrasing is, what are you paying for per hour?
It depends on the shift and also the amount of overtime, the agency, they're all different, we have contracts.
Yeah.
In general, can you give me like are you paying like $10 more than you would pay a staff? 15.
It's substantial. I want to say the example I had,
We just had that proposal come in today.
yes, a staffing agency that was looking to try to staff, and they were staffing RNs at $70 an hour.
That's if you pay them.
Yes,
You
that's
pay
what they
them,
would pay.
and that they're paying.
Not what they- Correct.
But then my next question.
We wouldn't have an issue.
That so, which I think follows maybe a little bit is that you're paying them 70, they're not paying $20, they're paying higher than you're paying, right? Okay, so, yeah, I mean, I think that helps me very much to thank you, just to understand sort of like where those cost trade-offs are, because it does seem absurd to think we're gonna pay people more to work for the gym, but that makes very, so I'm sorry to cut you, I just want to get
No,
to
if you
that's a
remember.
good question.
See that and immediately it just shut a much brighter light on what we're dealing with here and why we should probably, get it into the work, get it running right.
Sorry, can I get a motion on this one? I think.
Make a motion to.
All right, thank you. Norton and Hatchel for the second.
They get this, I'm sorry, the benefit of it, so. Recording, that's recording, the 48, 36, 24, whatever, 60. And my understanding now. 12 hours shift. 8-hour shift, 4-hour shift, is that, how can I say this? On a shift the day off, or can they add hours on a shift they already have, that's, you know.
We can do either way.
And so let's say they add 4 hours for 8-hour shift of work, they get paid something, $50 an hour, whereas the next time they schedule a 12-hour shift on the day they're off, they get $75 for that. For the car, so that amount could fluctuate depending how they.
Essentially, it calculates out to $25 per 4 hours. is what we
Okay,
have.
well, if you did that, I'm just saying, my question, and it kind of answered, you know, said that fluctuating, I mean, it's gonna be hard for Doug or regard. In fact, someone worked 2 12-hour shifts, and they work 3-hour, 8-hour shifts, and that's gonna be hard to do.
Yeah, we'll set up another pin code in the system, so it'll track just specifically.
We'll take care of that.
Okay, I understand, but I'm just saying that.
And then we don't worry about it because we have to.
I know, I mean, and then,
And it is a lot of work, but I feel it can be done.
we're doing it. My thing is, we already have people that they have to do this, right? We're gonna have CNAs and RNs, because I've said that for years, my director, when this is the director, said, if you ever have all that overtime, we could just hire more people, and that's like you tell me, you're gonna have the overtime, right? But I plan and I'll support that, but yeah, I think you already.
You have less people like doing overtime,
Right.
so you save on the fringes, because the overtime, they get their hourly rate.
Something
But
we
you
have
have less people, but you're wearing out your staff.
Right, that's why my argument then was to her, maybe she feeling to do that, so we could not hire more people at that time to have more overtime. Right.
Same,
And
and
it
I.
is just her.
Further comments?
Yeah. Differential, could you get a motion in a second on that?
Yeah, Hatchel and Norton.
So, first of all, not, and that was the other for, right?
Yeah, my wife is a nurse from hospital, went through this, and I'll just share, you know, I think some of the experiences that they went through that seem to make a lot of sense to me. You know, is it allow the flexibility of the planning, right? So people who wanted to do this were incentivized to pick up and make life easier for everybody, you know, as a nurse, my wife wasn't stressing that she'd look and say, well, there's only 3 people on the schedule today. Hopefully somebody answers that frantic text message and whatnot. So I really think this is the kind of thing that's becoming normal, and sort of expected in a lot of ways, especially knowing that it's that you just like have to have staff, right? I thought I read, but I just want to confirm that you all will have the ability to say, this is in effect, and then put it off when things are not needed. That's great. And then I have one question, because I think this is sort of how, how I've heard from various hospitals that have set this up, is that the incentive pay can be taken away if a person misses certain shifts. And I know we have it in here where it's like, you have to maintain your 0.6 status. But I'm wondering, like, I don't know, maybe I'll just describe the situation. Like, if I'm scheduled to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and not the rest of the week, but I pick up Thursday and Friday or something, and my kid's sick on Wednesday, does that, do I out on Wednesday so I don't get paid, but does my Thursday, Friday that I picked up still count on this, or does like one of those days get slotted into like a regular pay, regular shift? I hope that if that doesn't make sense, I can say more, but.
And so in the first, what we did is in order to be eligible for this incentive, your regular shifts must be completed successfully.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that.
That's all. So essentially, you need to fulfill your regular scheduled shifts in order to obtain the incentive.
So if I
We did it the Thursday and Friday.
If you're on a Wednesday, you could still do the Thursday and Friday, but you wouldn't be eligible for your, the total commitment incentive. So you would still get paid for your Thursday, Friday, but then when it comes to your full completion of all those shifts you picked up, you didn't because you called in, so you're not gonna get that total commitment incentive at the end. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
you'd still get an incentive for those extra shifts you picked up. It's just that final. Okay. Yeah,
the rules you have are laid out in a format like a spreadsheet or something, so that you're able to track these people as they come through and make sure that they hit the minimum before they start getting.
And would you create like the policy or procedure sheet that you would provide them and have them sign off on it as well?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, we should detail them, it's just that it's typically a good practice so that
Everybody knows
and then
Everybody knows the rules before they start playing. Right.
so if they called in and have a doctor excuse from the doctor, because I can't, the doctor says I'm not to come in, they would not be penalized, not stronger than penalized, and then the next day, and then they say today's day, we're out, and they came in and they did the incentive, or the pickup day, they still pay for that, right?
That would be an excused absence, essentially. So if they have a doctor's note, the same that we do right now, they call in on the weekend, if they don't have a doctor's note, they have to make up the weekend day. If they provide a doctor's note, which is an excused absence, they don't have to make that. So essentially having that doctor's note is an excused absence,
As opposed to the.
and to oppose just calling in. And
Oh, okay. They have. I don't need, sorry. I'm aging myself. My mother had, when she worked here, they used to call it incidents. We don't have that type of thing, right? When you're sick, you call your incident and.
we still have that.
Okay, and back then, they had, I thought, okay, things to get paid or credit for two, for one, you have to call 2 days in a row. I mean, to do that, I thought it was kind of crazy. Because my mother would not just call for one day, she called the next day, and then why do you miss 2 days of work? And then back when, you don't do that, that's fine. So that makes me feel much more comfortable about this, because I know that's, I don't want to incentivize people to come to work when they're sick, but at the same time, if they have a, if they've got if they're sitting there saying, I got a little cough and maybe I should stay home, or I'm running a fever, but if I stay home, I might lose this big bonus. Like I think that sets up the wrong incentives, especially at a time of, time of COVID, and when we know keeping our doors open is the key to keeping the balance, census as well as our balance, up. So thank you for those clarifications.
And I think with the benefit of having the 3 ways clinic too, getting those doctors excuses and things is free to sell. So
Right. Yeah. My wife was like, it doesn't matter. So you got COVID, like she had colleagues who had COVID. I probably consider this on a recorded meeting, but the colleagues who had COVID, and they just hide that COVID test. They didn't want to lose out on their bonus pay or whatever. So. All right. Any other comments on
I
this?
apologize right away.
You didn't even. Wasn't her. All right, no other comments, then we'll go to a vote. So we'll vote aye to approve of Parkview Health Center pre-shift commitment incentive. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Carries 5-0. On to item number 7, Parkview Health Center emergency staffing incentive. Any comments from staff?
Well, hold on, let's just make sure we got everyone. Agendas in place here.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
The one big difference, I guess, between this one and some of the others is that this is a Parkview emergency staffing proposal. It's not, it's necessary for the nursing department. So I think this addresses everyone, food service, housekeeping, ancillary services, that if they become in a staffing crisis as well, they have the opportunity then to offer this to their staff too in the emergency.
Sorry, go ahead. So I mean, like even like the front desk or.
If it's, I mean, if it's a position that's absolutely crucial, you know, we have to serve a meal 24 hours a day. We have to have food service. So if they're down 5 people in the kitchen, they can't function. So
To be either a hospital aide or a CNA, you have to be high school graduate and at least 18. The reason I'm asking that was where I saw in one of these different counties, I thought they were bringing high school students, like being 18 and in high school, but I have to make that clear. You have to be out of high school and 18. Not out of high school. Not high school, you can be in high school, but you have to be 18.
you have to be 16,
16.
but 18 to be able to operate a lift.
Okay, right, so you could be 16, you could be a hospitality, right?
And a CNA.
And
Oh, yeah, this, right.
Yep.
That's a recent change, isn't it? Like in the last 10, no, it's been away for a while.
it's just a federal law that you can't operate a lift unless you're.
All right, can I get a motion and a second from the committee?
The emergency staffing incentive.
All right. Discussion from the committee.
Well, I think this creates a lot of flexibility for you to be able to address, changes in your staff, and everything. And it's only something that's used as needed, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
And it would be an identified emergency situation. So we don't have enough staff available to fill the needed shifts for tonight to take care of the residents, or we have 9 open shifts out of 16, or to be able to determine that crisis.
So how is that created? Like, how do you, is that communicated out to staff? Like, you as the administrator would make that determination, correct? And then you would wait for all that communication down to your staff or the leaders within the organization, correct?
So Jessica essentially would come to me and say, actually, this weekend, we've done everything we can possibly to fill these shifts, and here's where we sit with openings yet at this point. Would you approve us using an incentive to help fulfill the shifts?
Right, so then, thank you for that. Then I guess, give me a real world example where that may have happened, say, in the last year. I'm very drawn, but I don't wanna create the image that we're in an emergency.
It was anticipated that we would have been having to use emergency staffing levels 3 weekends out of the last 6 weeks schedule. We ended up using them 4 days. So we did end up getting the shifts filled actually for this upcoming weekend, when we thought we would have to use emergency staffing. And we don't have to. Before that, it came to, the Thursday before the weekend, where we've attempted to fill the shifts. We were unable to at that point. We've exhausted all options. Then we had to, notify for an emergency authorization to offer time and a half to our staff in order to fill those needs. At that point, we wouldn't even have had enough people to mandate. We had 21 open shifts for 2 days.
All right, thank you.
What is it gonna look like when you get down here to Memorial Day? You want people to work. And, family and friends and whatever else, trying to pull them off. Or do things on a large holiday like that. How does that work?
Our holidays are every other holiday signed for staff and for, so our CNAs work every other holidays, our hospitality aides work every other holiday, et cetera. So they know their assigned holidays upcoming, so they know if they work Memorial Day, they're gonna have off 4th of July. But if you call in Memorial Day, then you're gonna have to work 4th of July. So kind of, it plays out that way. We did do the schedules 8 weeks in advance, actually 10 weeks in advance, because we put them out 2 weeks ahead of time. So they had 10 weeks also to see what their schedule is and to adjust all their schedules for their vacations. They submit their vacations in the fall, so they know whether or not they're approved. If they want to add in vacation days, they can see if they're available. They have all the opportunity to do all of that.
Explaining goes on by the leadership of your.
Give me an example. If you had to get used number 2 here, the ability to offer your attached $5,000 working with different positions above and beyond the 40 hours within a week during the high need shift, class staff and emergency identified by NHI or more like what type of position and that fully trained on.
So that an exempt nursing staff are going to be our staffing managers that are salary. So if they're picking up or adjusting their schedule to work on the weekends, they have no incentive to do so at this point. So we have the ability to either offer them a day off for the week if they choose to do that. But if they want to pick up above their 40 hours to say be a nurse on the floor, then we have the ability to offer them what their time and a half wage would be to get a transition. Because right now we cannot offer them that time and a half wage because they're exempt.
I think I read something. Is there a way that if you want to nurse RN or LPN and you need a CNA that RN is wanting to pick up for do that, and how are they, if and how are they compensated? If it fits in wage of
They get paid their hourly wage to do that position.
is this another one where, in the aggregate, we're cost saving, only using this when you're otherwise forced to spend more?
Yeah.
Okay. So you pay $65 you pay $70 from the each city. That's $5 right there. That's an example.
So the comparison that you provided us here, from the Solace in the living campus. It looks like spaces are across the board different, very different in providing this, and that it looks like, for lack of a better word, we're kind of creating a kind of a Cadillac incentive in this area, which could be good for us as well in recruiting people if they do that. So, because there's a lot of people that don't, like right now, we don't know. But there's also another one that doesn't, there's no consistency in regards to what they offer. No real problem.
Anything else? All right, then we'll move to a vote on number 7, Parkview Health Center Emergency Staffing Incentive. We'll vote aye if you approve. Nay if you don't. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. That carries 5-0. Any organization change, transfer 6 CNA FTE to 6 hospitality aid FTE. staff first, and then we'll take a motion from this.
Essentially, when we had the staff meetings, I identified that increasing the hospitality FTE would be beneficial, maybe offering some night shift positions. Currently, right now, we just do AMs and PMs. So in order to offer those positions to help the staff.
I'll make a motion.
By Norton, any discussion?
I'll start with this. I know that we transferred, and we have this in your documentation. We transferred 16 CNAs to hospital. I don't know if that worked or not. I think it worked. And my other thought is the function of hospitality. And they can't do a lot of these functions. So what are they going to do? Are they just going to, I mean, I would imagine that you have to do laundry if people are trying to sleep. I wouldn't think you have to make beds and change that unless it's necessary. So what will they do on that shift?
There's a lot of check and changes in regards to like wheelchair washings, things that they can take out of the room. They actually can do the laundry. The laundry is in a central location,
Okay.
so it won't be disruptive to the neighborhood. They can prepare things for breakfast and set the dining room up for the breakfast in the morning.
They can wipe the floor in the dining room.
They can clean a lot of areas. They can prepare the lifts. The lifts need to have their checks as well. There's a list of definite duties that we could assign to night shift CNAs or hospitality aides, sorry. Right now, because of the staffing that we are at, some neighborhoods only get one CNA for 21 residents with a nurse. So instead of staffing it that way, we could do a hospitality aide and a CNA because they could help with a lot of those other tasks that the CNA would have to do.
And then I see that your high school diploma or required education. Yes, no, I'm thinking someone that's in high school wouldn't have their high school diploma, but we should take them on as a hospitality aide. Is that correct? What are they lifting that's up to 50 pounds? Very pretty cool, up to 50 pounds.
Garbage.
Garbage.
Look around.
It's up to. Doesn't mean you're gonna do it all the time.
Oh, I know.
Let me ask you, I was in rehab unit. The rehab would have been, it's full, how many residents and how many hospital would you have? And then, you answer that question.
So in a rehab unit, if it was full, ideal staffing, you would have 2 nurses, 2 CNAs, 1 hospitality aide, and 20 minutes.
Now, the reason you would want more hospitality age in other neighborhoods, I mean, would be because they're challenge, I don't know that word, but they need more care or, I mean, my understanding, I only had one hospitality full time, and maybe it was full and she did what you married up. But that's in a rehab, but maybe in a different unit, all-time resident, you maybe need more than one. So that's why you would need more than one hospital aide on a different neighborhood. Am I correct?
Essentially increasing the FTE when we have the part-time hospitality aides, but then be able to also offset that other part-time person. So right now, if you have a full-time person, they're off like the Monday after their weekend and the Friday before they leave in the work. We don't have the FTE to put in a part-time person to cover for those days that they're off. So we need
I remember we had one that worked Monday through Friday, I think, and I think the other one worked days off in the weekend.
So the FTE would offer some of the flexibility in covering for those off days. One benefit too of the hospitality aide position is if they don't want to pursue to be a CNA, we can also put them into our feeding assistant program, get them certified as a feeding assistant, and they can help actually feed residents.
There are people that just want to be a hospitality aid, and they're happy being a hospitality.
A lot of retired people.
Yeah, they
Come
just
in.
wanna do that, and they don't wanna move up, or even a young person, say, this is for me. I wanna work here, and I wanna help people, but I really don't wanna go any farther, just wanna be.
I had one older person who worked in, when he came here, and worked, first of all, right, my friend came from Walmart, and she was much younger, and went to up in Walmart. She came from her.
So it works that way. Or you might have a CNA that just wants to be a CNA. That's a possibility.
But if you have private education, you can keep them interested. Take those optional little credits here and there
Yeah.
and make them into the top-notch CNA of the valley, or whatever, you know?
So they have two recourses.
Yes, they do. They have a personal image, a self-image that they're developing on top of getting money to keep themselves going. And believe me, that self-image, that personal development is more than essential, especially when people are dealing with crisis situations and whatever else during the day. So, get them out and get them into an educational environment and help you up. You have to do that program along.
Anybody have anything else on item number 8? All in favor of transferring 6 CNAs to F6 CNA FTEs, 6 hospitality, 8 FTEs, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And it's carried 5-0. All right, this brings us to item number 9, suggested topics for future agenda. Anybody
Just
have
keep
one?
us updated on what's going on out here with your staff. You're very good at that, I know that, but I don't want a big report of,
Couple things, one, for information, you have to, the last meeting, it have to be tomorrow. I would like to know, how much is this out here in Oak Corner land, but how much would be considered personal? And just some ideas that I people might have. And there you go, to share with you, the former county executive thought that sometime we could have an assisted living place out here. And I'm not saying I'm gonna do that in the near future, but I'm just curious before what land out here would be very cool.
Yeah, but I don't think there's anything designated strictly as Parkview. It's all county owned.
It's county owned, but it's called the Parkview, whatever, because when they put the crisis center in, I was saying, who they can't be on here, and they said it's county land, but I don't know what it's called. There's a map.
I understand why you guys, but I don't remember this committee. I remember that.
If you get the planning, you go up and talk with Jerry or somebody who has a map.
They've got it, that's right.
And lay it out and divide it up. So that you've got different lots. Building or whatever, the base of the lake or whatever. You can probably divide this thing up. At 10 homes out here.
At some point, I'll bring this up and you guys know that in our city, in Cancer Chairman, we had a study about senior housing, which we need, and I think we want to come to this committee for anyone to give a very short, interesting presentation that in the future. I'll make that offer to you. And that's, I'm not saying, lead to anything we definitely in the near future, but I think that's something. ADRC had a study, and I don't know if anyone went through, we had a couple of public knowledge of it, and but he told me that he'd be willing to come here and make a very short presentation. Yes, the second thing, okay, I'm gonna bring this up, and I hope you heard me rumored. And you have to remember about displaced. And I think, rumors, I think, maybe they say, okay, someone has been offered to buy this place. I think, if we have to dispose of it, because I know I would, I think that would give a lot of assurance to people who work here that it's committee is brings them and things should stay open. And I don't know how we dispose of it. And we know it's going to like actually, it's going to break it up, people know. They can speak for a committee and we deal with it, what we will, and so I don't know what we're waiting for. You guys know. I don't know what he's waiting for. I think that's something we have to get out. Is that if those rumors are going around and if someone's not on the committee and I'm hearing from him and we've heard it from other people, I think we have to kind of get rid of those rumors because why would you want to go work with a place that somebody be sold and hope the future is somehow we have to recognize it.
You're not the only one that knows that. I'm just keeping it on.
And let me just say, you thought,
Because it hasn't.
this supervisor thought that
They don't
contact
have
will be here, and why it's not, and I'm not. I'm not saying he told you anything fully, but I'm saying somehow.
Within the last 2 weeks.
We have
So
to.
we
should probably.
What she thought.
We cannot have conversations about this. We can only say, put it on the agenda. Anything further than that is an open meeting violation. Sorry, that's all.
Any other suggested topics for future items? That our next meeting date is Thursday, June 16th, 3:30 p.m. Is that any conflicts I'm missing for anybody? Well, is 3 conflicts better?
No.
Okay, thank you. I just want to bring a little update. I can make this quickly. You know, me and Bob are probably going to start to work on. I know we have the Zoom and recording. Maybe we have to have a meeting in the Carver building. Let me just say, do we have a building here, a room that has plug and play capability? In fact, that's what I was told at the
Often is set up there.
at the Unity Extension Committee, that you need something to have a plug and play ability to have a certain device that would make it a lot easier to.
And we were at Kaufman before.
I'm just saying that we may do that in the future because this is something I know me and Tom has to work out. Okay, so let me ask the question. I want to put the cart ahead of the horse. All right, I get that right? I don't know. I'm never horse and cart anymore. Right. I know you all will deal with it at IS and other places about what our rules permit. I was thinking about this following our meeting on Tuesday, that it feels like this setup, especially in this room with masks and everything like that, probably creates an ADA violation. So I imagine it's probably pretty hard to hear me. I know I'm not as loud as some of the other supervisors. So my understanding, this plug and play system would be for Zoom or whatever platform we're using, and would where it has room is mic'd up and everything. Does that work for staff? If we did, I don't want to create,
Can you jog me on down to the Kaufman again if we get one of those rooms? Because on Saturday, we were set up when we first came on, that we were doing it there at the end of the whole event. Is that all right?
the meeting in W Extension happened, their little meeting room. But when I talked to Chris, he said, one of the proposals is to have the AB room, the bigger room, have that capability. And that's why they already have a room that has that, but we would like to have an AB room. So that's in the future.
What do you think? Should we take our masks off?
You can take your mask off.
And like,
I'm gonna be there Monday.
thank you. Is that amenable for everybody? Then we'll make our next meeting at Coughlin.
No, we're good. This Thursday's challenging, but I said I'd go with it, so we're good.
You know, the agenda gets set out with the address in order where we're gonna have it. But if they can't get and they have to put it here, that agenda is gonna have that on it. It isn't a matter of choice, it's just a matter of where it's gonna be and whether the agenda is gonna have that on it.
So now
I don't
you make that known to these gals and then they go and call over there and make it, see if it's available. So.
If we can't get the room, we can meet back here, but I do, thanks for bringing that up. I think hopefully we have some more realistic resolution for what's required and we make these things happen in a way that's accessible and, good for everybody to participate. We'll try to get progress next time. All right, motion by Supervisor Finnegan. Adjourned, second by Supervisor Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. We're adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you.